Hello, and welcome to World Water Week. Global dialogues around water and climate bring together leading actors across the development landscape, but too often we're missing the voices of those who deliver essential water and sanitation services. In today's talk show, we're shining the spotlight on water and sanitation utilities. We'll be talking about an upcoming publication called The Global Outlook on Water and Sanitation Service Providers Water for Sustainable Cities, produced by UN Habitat's Global Water Operators Partnership Alliance in collaboration with IRC WASH and Water for People, which is highlighting the crucial role of water and sanitation utilities in achieving the Sustainable Development Agenda, and most notably SDG 6 on clean water and sanitation, SDG 11 on cities, and SDG 13 on climate action. To dig into this and more, I'm very pleased to be joined by our esteemed panel here today. Ms. Ana Claudia Rosbach, UN Undersecretary General and the Executive Director of UN Habitat. Ana Claudia is a globally renowned urban economist and is leading a new era of transformative change in housing and urban development. Very welcome. Ms. Vida Dutti, Ghana Country Director for IRC. Vida is the country director of IRC Ghana and is a driving force behind strategic change in safe water and sanitation, governance, and community development. She also knows utilities as a former board member of the Ghana Water Limited and with over 20 years of experience. And we have Mr. Ramateo Monyokolo, chairperson of RAND Water and the Association of Water and Sanitation Institutions of South Africa. Very welcome. Ana Claudia, I'd like to start with you. UN Habitat is leading the global drive for sustainable cities and communities. We understand that UN Habitat's new strategic plan was recently adopted with strong support from countries, reasserting focus on addressing the global challenge of housing. Why has UN Habitat put housing at the center, and what does safe and water and sanitation have to do with it?
No, thank you. It's a very important question. Right now, we have more than 50% of the population living in cities, and in 2050, we're going to have almost 70%. So just to place the importance of cities in our conversation, right? Especially Africa and Southeast Asia will be highly affected by urbanization process. This means hundreds of millions of people arriving in cities in Africa and Southeast Asia. And they have to live somewhere, and they have to have access to water and sanitation. So this is one of the big challenges. And on top of that, we are living a global housing crisis. We are living historic affordability gaps, so people have difficulties to access housing. We have more than 1 billion people living in slums, informal settlements, with precarious access to basic services and even precarious housing quality. We have 300 million living in homelessness situation, and we are losing houses for disasters, crises, conflicts, etc. So the housing situation in the world points out to a situation of crisis. So we are living a global housing crisis. And housing is the minimum entry point to connect to water and sanitation, right? And in this world, of course, the utilities, the providers, they have a central role. Because if we don't connect the dots, we cannot just, the houses that we need to build, we cannot build anywhere. The informal settlements that we need to transform, we have to make connected to water and services and so on. So this is why housing is at the center. And UN Habitat was created 50 years ago to deal with the international shelter crisis. So we are going back to our basics.
I mean, the need sounds enormous. Hundreds of millions moving into cities in Asia, Southeast Asia, South Asia and Africa. And needing to get those utilities up to speed. And with that, I mean, yes, what will we do otherwise? So it sounds like it's a very big work ahead of us. I'd like to follow up a little bit and ask about the new report that you'll be publishing, the Global Outlook on Water and Sanitation Utilities. Can you tell me how this will strengthen the role of utilities in the global dialogue that we referenced at the top of the session?
Yeah, sure. And then just to complement the comment that you just made, we are talking about cities that are already lacking infrastructure. So in Africa, for example, an average 50% of the inhabitants, they live in slums in informal settlements. So covering the existing gaps, right, and then being prepared for the urbanization. So utilities will need to be, ready to act. We have right now, I think, more than 240,000 utilities in the world. Through our alliance, we have connected more than 200 utilities, but the diversity is huge. Diversity in terms of presence, capacity, and so on. Also, they have been invisible in this urbanization process, in these discussions, they have been an invisible key but invisible actor. So we hope that this report will connect the world, the universe of utilities to the rest of the world, right? So that different ministries that are co-responsible for the urbanization process, they understand. But not only that, you have all the connections with economic growth, prosperity, a strong role of the private sector upcoming right now. So we have to make sure that the sectors understand the challenges that we face. We have to make sure that all stakeholders understand how important utilities are and how to engage with utilities. And we believe the report is going to be very helpful in this sense. Of course, it needs to be a live report, so I'm very thankful for this talk show, because if we don't bring the report to life through our trainings, capacities, debates, and so on, then we'll lose it.
So I hear very much from you. I mean, it's a bit of a two-way conversation. Not only do we want utilities to be more visible and part of the dialogue, but we also want to ensure that those out there are also looking to engage and have these conversations with us. Vita, IRC Wash is the lead author of the Global Outlook, as mentioned by Ana Claudia. What are the key learnings from the report, and what do you hope readers will take away?
So, a key message from the report is that despite the fact that most of us here rely on utilities, we know very little about utilities. There are over 240,000 utilities, and that is what we documented. There could be many because the typology is not properly defined. They are diverse in nature, in structure, in the governance. And we also noticed that for most of the utilities, they are owned by government, so they are state-owned. But then we see the emergence of private sector also coming into the space. The other key issue that we reaffirmed with the report is the fact that urbanization is growing and utilities are struggling to catch up with the rate of urbanization, coupled with the challenge of climate change affecting the water cycles. So there's dual issue that we are dealing with. Utilities continue to be under-resourced, but they need that resource to be able to deal with critical issues of managing the services. With the report, we found out that currently utilities' contribution to climate issues is net zero. But then with investment, utilities can contribute positively in dealing with the issue of climate change. The other issue that was also prominent in the study that we did was the fact that utilities have done well. I think, but for utilities, we'll be lagging behind the achievement of SDG 6, which is safely managed. So we see increasing progress towards many people having safely managed services. However, it is not able to catch up with the pace of population growth. So we are on track but then we still have a long way to go to achieve the full targets that we have set for ourselves as a global community. The other issue that we also noticed was that there are so many innovations, pilots, very interesting ideas, but they are not scaled.
Mm.
But this is not something for utilities to deal with alone. It will require active support and backing by governments at a higher level to be able to bring these innovations to scale. So these were some of the things that we found.
I mean, it sounds like a fascinating report that covers many different areas, but also, as you're saying, this is largely an area that we haven't looked at so much, and so it sounds very, very timely. But I also take with me what both you and Ana Claudia noticed or mentioned about the diversity of the types of utilities out there, 240,000 of them, and the need to better engage with them and also invest so that they can contribute positively to the climate outlook. Ramateo, I'd like to come to you. How does this translate for you as a water utility in South Africa? What kind of changes are you hoping to see to create a more enabling environment for utilities in the future to engage in these types of dialogues and platforms?
Thank you for the question. In the South African context, water is provided for by the utilities, but there's also municipalities that provide water to the tap. So we have two levels. At the level of the utility, what we need to do is, but also linked to municipalities, is to look at the regulatory environment. Currently, municipalities are regarded as water service authorities, meaning that they are the ones that have to appoint a service provider, but they appoint themselves, so there's nobody that regulates them. Hence, we require an independent regulator to manage that situation in the interest of communities. The second issue that we require, therefore, is that we then need to look at the delivery model. Are municipalities able to deliver the service? In the South African context, we say currently they have challenges, all of them. To that extent, we then saying utilities should be allowed to provide water in partnership with municipalities to provide water up to the tap, not only provide bulk water. So those are the changes that we require. Those are the things that we're looking at. The other things that we also need to look at is in terms of regulation, is to make sure that the regulation processes are quite easy and they are actually efficient. We don't have to tick all the unnecessary boxes. For instance, we apply to be in a special purpose vehicle with a municipality. It took us about a year to do that. It shouldn't take us that long. It's something that needs to be looked at from the regulatory point of view. Therefore, the regulatory process needs to be reviewed.
Brilliant. I mean, so I hear very much from you this need for not just an independent regulator, but also for that regulatory processes should be easy and effective for utilities to
Yeah.
implement. What about the role of partnerships? I mean, are there partners and actors that you'd be looking to engage more with to strengthen the role of utilities?
Yeah. Yeah, we just signed an agreement with IHE 12 yesterday to partner from the point of view of capacity building and professionalization of the sector. We are signing an agreement also today, with the Finnish Water Forum. Finnish Water Forum has members that can assist in our view to ensure that we build utilities of the future from the point of view of efficiency, effectiveness, and competitiveness, but also from the point of view of technology, AI, and related matters. So those are the kind of partnership that we're looking at. We also signed an agreement tomorrow with a new organization that has been established, Water Sweden, to also achieve the same objective. We'll be signing an agreement with the GWOP in Bonn sometime next month to ensure that as we build houses, we also bring water into the system.
So many different kinds of stakeholders I hear there, and also different avenues in terms of need for capacity building, for shared learning, but also, as Vito was talking about, the need to bring these innovations and new ideas to scale. And Claudia, Mateo just highlighted the roles that different kinds of partnerships can play in advancing utilities. Partnership is at the core of the Global Water Operators Partnership Alliance. What kind of partnerships do you hope to see expanding? And what will be the Alliance's role in the upcoming 2026 UN Water Conference?
Oh, great points. GEOPA is a partnership per nature, and as I mentioned before, we have around 200 partners, and but also a larger outreach, right, in terms of engaging with more than 200, almost I think more than 2,000, through different methods, communities of practice, and engagement, and so on. So I believe peer learning is critical for us to be able to overcome the challenges that we have in terms of development, because there's no single organization that has all the truth. And we spoke a lot about innovations. They happen at the local level, right? So we can be used as conduits to promote this innovation. The other very critical partnership is, you mentioned that, local governments. Yeah, I mean the role of local governments in connecting the dots, because you mentioned the regulatory framework for the utilities themselves, but if we want them to work and to cope with the urbanization challenge, we have to make sure that also the urban regulations they fit into, they converge, so that we have an overall enabling environment for them to expand the services. And if we talk about private sectors, they want to minimize the risk. So these urban regulations have to be clear. I spoke about the informal settlements. It's not easy to promote connection in informal settlements because of land ownership. So we need to have this clarity. Or new houses. People are building differently. In South Africa, they build backyard houses. Even in Europe, people are subdividing their houses. So this recognition needs to be there. Otherwise, we cannot connect all the dots. So the work with the local governments is very important. And then perhaps a third very relevant partner are the IFIs. The MDBs, I feel they play a very, very important role in provide the finance for the bulk infrastructure, also to bring and promote this innovation, right? We have to go for systemic change. We have to enhance the horizontal transfer of knowledge, but we need investments. And I believe that the IFIs, they can be a very important vehicle for promoting innovation on the ground and connect real projects, real outputs to more policy systemic change here.
Thank you so much. I mean, there's so many different angles there and so many different partners, as you said, that, who need to really be part of this conversation. Vita, this also brings me to my next question for you. So many of these goals or areas are underpinning, the cross-cutting themes from the sustainable sustainable development agenda. Beyond utilities and those in the water and sanitation sector, who else do you feel this report speaks to? And what other audience do you hope this message will reach? And I'm going to limit your answer to 1 minute.
So, the first one is for utilities to learn from each other in the face of innovation and improving on what they do. And then also national and local governments to provide the enabling supports in terms of providing clarity on mandates, regulations, and what have you. And then the third one is the shifts, for us to shift from the siloed approach to placing utilities at the center of urban development and planning. And so this report is for all these people, and actually anyone that relies on utilities for survival, you have to read this report.
That's a pretty big call to action, I think, for all of you. We're coming to the close of our session, and before we go, I want us to remind our audience what they should be looking forward to. I think, Vita, you just gave us a good sense of that. But Ana Claudia, who are you hoping will pick up this report? beyond just everyone? And what do you want them to do with it? I'm going to limit you to 30 seconds.
Yeah, I spoke about all the partners, but perhaps in coming back also to your previous question, you mentioned the UN Water Conference towards the end of next year. And I believe we should max out these spaces, like this space here today. We have our upcoming Congress, our Water Operators Partnership Congress in Bonn in October. We have the World Urban Forum in Baku, Azerbaijan. And I believe these spaces will give us, solid audience for this report, but also using this report, throughout our process of dialogues and building capacity and so on. So I really hope that the urban stakeholder, these key partners, will have access and reach and look at the report. And thank you for pushing it.
Vida, you've already mentioned, you want the water and sanitation service providers to go out and learn from each other and drive each other's innovation. Any last word to them?
I think that utilities must break away from their silos. Sometimes they're a bit inward looking and should be interested in what happens around them in the enabling environment. Establish partnership across the sector and with others that align with their work. They need to align their plans with town and urban country, electricity, and what have you. Otherwise, it's like you are in your own box. So we need to shift and be interested in what happens around us. That is the only way that we can survive.
Thank you, Vida. And Ramateo, what are you hoping how are you hoping utilities will be engaged and featured in upcoming conferences and dialogues? 30
Well,
seconds.
well, in South Africa, we have the Association of Water and Sanitation Institutions, which includes all the utilities. And of course, we're looking at bringing other people except municipalities because they'll be conflicted. However, we have a relationship with South African Local Government Association, but also beyond our borders. I spoke about the partnership that we are pursuing. We'll also be having a conference on the 9th and 12th of November in South Africa to deal with issues around working together with other utilities continentally and globally.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Ana Claudia, Vida, Ramateo, thank you so much for being here with us today and sharing about the current state of water and sanitation utilities. The conversation has really underscored for us that utilities are not only service providers, but key actors in driving progress in the sector. And we really look forward to the upcoming sixth Global Water Operators Partnership Conference, and the 2026 UN Water Conference as well. And I hope the report will serve as a critical tool in amplifying the voices of utilities and others within the global dialogue. Thank you so much as well to our audience here in Stockholm and those joining us online. Until next time, goodbye.